In this unit you will learn about the Industrial Revolution and reform movements.
America earned respect around the world for defending themselves from Britain. Americans became very patriotic, or proud of their country. Americans built more factories, increasing manufacturing, to make items they could not trade for during the War of 1812. The Industrial Revolution was a time in which machines were invented to better manufacture products like cloth that were previously made by people. The Industrial Revolution began in New England because the rocky soil was not good for farming and there were plenty of rivers to power the machines.
The cotton gin was a machine invented by Eli Whitney that would quickly take seeds out of cotton fiber. This resulted in more cotton farms and provided cotton for textile mills in the North. Interchangeable parts is the process of making identical parts that can be put together to make a product. This led to mass production of products which dropped prices. Again, an invention started by Eli Whitney.
Let's recap the vocabulary you have learned so far. Following the War of 1812, U.S. manufacturing increased because of boycott of British goods. The Industrial Revolution brought new inventions, helped farming and helped factories make goods faster, goods became cheaper and need for workers grew. The cotton gin expanded cotton production and the need for more agricultural labor. Finally, interchangeable parts provided a more efficient way to produce goods. This led to mass production and the price of goods decreased. In the early 1800s, it was easier and cheaper to move people and goods by water than by land. The Erie Canal is a man-made river that connects Lake Erie to New York City. As a result, New York City became one of America's largest cities. In 1807, Robert Fulton invented the steamboat that was powered by a steam engine. The steamboat, along with canals, a national road, and railroads, made moving goods faster, which resulted in decreased prices. The telegraph also allowed for rapid communication.
Now let's make application to the vocabulary.
In the early 1800s, Americans experienced strong religious feelings during what is called the Second Great Awakening. Preachers would set up tents and invite people from all over to come hear about how to achieve personal salvation. Because of this, people wanted to do good things for their society. This would be known as the Reform era.
Mental illness reform. Dorothea Dix worked to get better treatment for the mentally ill. Those who were considered mentally ill were often thrown in jail or chained to their beds. The temperance movement. Temperance groups spread the word about the dangers of alcohol. Many believed that the consumption of alcohol led to addiction, poor health, being poor, and family problems. Alcohol use was high among factory workers. The abolitionist movement. Abolitionist groups in the North worked to end slavery. William Lloyd Garrison created his own anti-slavery newspaper called The Liberator. Frederick Douglass was an escaped slave from Maryland, who published an anti-slavery newspaper known as the North Star. Other noted abolitionists are Harriet Beecher Stowe, who wrote a novel called Uncle Tom's Cabin, that brought attention to how evil slavery was. Sojourner Truth was a former slave that made it her life goal to travel and tell people the truth about slavery. During the women's rights movement, Elizabeth Cady Stanton and Lucretia Mott organized the Seneca Falls Convention. This was the first meeting for women's rights. During the meeting they wrote the Declaration of Sentiments, which asked for women to be treated the same as men and to have the right to vote. Finally, we have Transcendentalism. Transcendentalism is a movement founded by Ralph Waldo Emerson. Transcendentalists believed in listening to your inner self, your conscience, to determine what is right and wrong. Henry David Thoreau was the most famous transcendentalist because he practiced civil disobedience by refusing to pay taxes. Let's recap the second set of vocabulary. First, we have the Second Great Awakening. This encouraged people to be more religious and caused social reform, leading to Reform era. Dorothea Dix worked to improve prison conditions and create facilities for the mentally ill. Temperance movement, led by women, who fought to decrease alcohol consumption. abolitionist, worked to end slavery by exposing its hardships. Harriet Beecher Stowe wrote Uncle Tom's Cabin. Frederick Douglass had a newspaper called The North Star. Harriet Tubman led the Underground Railroad, and William Lloyd Garrison, who owned the newspaper called The Liberator. Women's rights movement held the Seneca Falls Convention, which called for women's suffrage, or the right to vote. Declaration of Sentiments, Susan B. Anthony and Elizabeth Cady Stanton. Transcendentalism, founded by Emerson and Thoreau, focused on ideal societies and individualism, used civil disobedience as a form of protest, such as not paying taxes.
Now let's make application to the vocabulary.